Is okay. Is our next panelist here? Oh, perfect, perfect, wonderful, wonderful. All right, we're gonna keep the ball rolling. Okay, all right. All right. Okay, we're living in a pivotal moment where artificial intelligence is not just automating tasks, but amplifying human creativity and problem solving like never before. I'm excited to see Glean here, who will be talking to us about our next panel titled AI for Humanity, How Glean is Expanding Human Potential to Do Extraordinary Work. I'll pass on the mic.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Sarvati from 154 Advisors. I work at the intersection of fintech and smaller financial institutions. And for my credentials for the purposes of this event, I am heavily involved in the credit union space, which happen to be not-for-profits. And I actually helped to start a credit union back when I was in business school, and I still serve on the board of advisors. These are my two colleagues from Glean. Thank you for sponsoring this track. Matt, TJ, I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then we'll just get into the details. I think of myself as, I wouldn't say a skeptic, but I'm very aware how important AI is going to be in terms of touching everything we do and how we need to work with it, and we're going to have to get very used to it. I still have some concerns, and I like the way, from what I'm understanding, that Glean is approaching it, and that's what I'd like to dive into here.
Discussion, I think. So my name is Matt Mathis. I lead a team of sellers, a go-to-market team that call in some of our largest accounts in the Southeast. This is a little bit of a different spin. I know we sat in the last couple sessions, and it's been a philanthropic theme. We do have some customers that are nonprofits, but we are clearly a for-profit organization. And we're going to more talk about the role of humans in AI and what we see in the work that we do with clients every day. So it's a little bit of a different take, and that's what I do here. I lead a go-to-market team.
And hello, everyone. My name is TJ Terrell, and I'm really a general engineer with respect to artificial intelligence at Glean. So everything from when you're considering bringing AI into the organization to when you actually bring in AI into the organization to when it breaks, you give me a call. And so I've been working with Glean for quite some time now. I support Matt's team, so I'm their technical sidekick, and I'm happy to talk through how Glean is advancing the role of humans and their interaction with AI.
Maybe one quick, not overly hyperactive group participation. Can we just get hands if you had to pick between business or technical? How many of you would say you're more interested in like the business side of what we're talking about and how we talk about it? Okay, how about technical? Oh boy, it's about half. So we're going to
half and half.
Yeah,
half and half.
Which is
okay,
we're
going to do our best to dial in.
Of the shop. That's great. Let me start by laying out, I have to be honest, I was not that familiar with Glean coming into this conversation, and so I'm going directly to your description, the way Glean describes itself to the world. And I love the fact that it's talking about human potential to do extraordinary work in the mission statement, which to me is exactly the way AI should be approached. So the way that Glean describes itself is as the work AI platform that connects and understands all of an enterprise's data to generate trusted answers and automate work grounded in the company's knowledge. So again, the company's knowledge, another key for me, not like polling the entire internet. You're working with a small system.
That's probably the most unique thing about our company is the ability to do that. And if you've sat through the sessions here and read every article that comes out every 3 minutes, it seems about how to leverage AI. It's all about using your context and your data. And so this is really where we come in particularly strong. Our co-founder and CEO is one of the first engineers on Google search, like indexing the internet. And so he obviously took on the challenge of indexing enterprise data. And so we started with enterprise search, finding things in a company and how hard that can be. And with the advancement of large language models, we added an AI assistant and now agentic capabilities. So really everything that we can do to elevate that human potential is really driven by that enterprise data. That's one of the most key pieces of what we do. And also one of the critical success factors for anybody to leverage generative AI.
Yeah, one of the other things I saw in the description is Glean aims to make research as simple as using Google, which is quite a statement.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing to what Matt was saying, right? When you really think about what Glean is, it's like having someone at your company who's been there the longest and has the work capacity of a digital worker, right? They know everything and they can work infinitely fast. Another way to think about it, and our CEO always says this, is as an executive, you have an idea and a thought, and you have people to go do that for you. Go build this product, go sell this thing. Glean does that for you as an individual. It's your assistant, right? You have these thoughts, these ideas, preparing for this meeting, creating this project. The goal and the true mission of Glean is to work with you, the individual person, to advance your initiatives, your projects, your ideas, almost like your personal CEO assistant.
The way I've kind of heard it said too is you've got your most tenured and kind of knowledgeable employee that's sitting over someplace in the corner, but you don't want to keep bothering that person because you need them to do work. But this gives you the opportunity to pick their brain on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Maybe a good example. So I joined about 6 months ago, and onboarding is a big use case for us, and our clients use it for onboarding as well. You think about the time.
New employee onboarding?
Yeah, exactly. You think about the time it takes to get someone productive, and particularly in an industry that changes as fast as ours does, and as complex as it could be. Again, to TJ's point, you have that ability to basically ask any question you want of anyone that's worked there forever. They also know the organization, what your role is, and what you're allowed to know, right, from a permissions perspective. And so to kind of pull the human element into that, it doesn't mean that you're not interacting with people as you do it. Like we do have a mantra, hey, go glean that, right? Glean something before
It's a nice verb. Yeah.
But what it does is it elevates the baseline. So you still recruit mentors, you still have people that help you onboard, but you have a much more nuanced and interesting conversation because you're not asking where the water cooler is or you get the anecdote, right?
So I guess you're kind of answering the first question out of the gate. I know this is, I believe, your mission statement, if I'm not mistaken, to expand human potential to do extraordinary work. And that's basically what you're describing.
Yeah, so I've seen a little bit here. There's a lot of this kind of fear around AI and automating things, and that, I think in manufacturing settings and maybe in traditional companies as well is something to think about. But we're really focused on elevating what people can do. Now, there is a time savings element. And typically in the business cases CFOs use to bring Glean in, they do consider that. But it's
part of the business case.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really more about the impact that you could have. It's way more impacting to hire great people and make more time available for what they do and make them better at it than it is to automate a few simple things, right? So, how does that come to life? Like someone such as myself, if I'm going to show up to a client meeting and I have reps that are having conversation with them every day, I've maybe been out of sync for a few weeks, I can run an agent that connects to that company's annual report, their latest earnings, anything they say about their AI ambitions in the world. Of course, that's all public. But now combining that with what we know about them internally, all the conversations we've had, there's a CRM record, any open tickets maybe they have, how what we're sizing up the business problems. It's all amalgamated and presented to me in about 5 minutes. And then you show up better prepared to serve that client.
As I recall, for this conversation, you actually ran things through Glean.
We did.
You gleaned it and kind of decided what some of the best ways to put this.
That's right.
Yeah, which makes sense. We're still having a very, kind of human conversation. So
Absolutely. I had a thought this morning, which was, I've certainly had some bad experiences with 100% AI, but I haven't really had bad experience with the combination of AI and a human somehow. And it's just a simple example. I was talking to a peer that, we're down there talking about the agents that we use to do our jobs down at our booth here at the event. And he was talking about he's using it to draft notes. It's still a really simple thing, and I'm sure you all do that in ChatGPT as an example. But the point is you use it to get it 80% right, and then you still personalize it and make sure it's accurate in every way and hyper-relevant.
Yep. A little bit more about Glean, just to give a perspective for people. My understanding is you recently, earlier this year, completed a Series F funding. So you've gone through 6 funding rounds, that means, of $150 million. That set the valuation of the company at $7.2 billion. Earlier this year, you announced you've reached an annual revenue run rate of $100 million.
Right.
So we already talked a little bit about your CEO. I went back and looked. I guess he joined Google in 2003. Which is about only 4 or 5 years after Google got started, spent 11 years there, and then spent a period, he was the CEO at Rubrik, which is now a public company worth $16 billion. So again, you've got a pretty good track record in terms of these things working. TJ, if we can turn to you and maybe get into a bit of the technical side, the whole notion of human-centric AI, in terms of empowering rather than replacing folks, how do you make sure that Glean's tools? Obviously you can't control how that your clients decide to use them, but how do you really try to reinforce that notion of human skills and creativity as opposed to just moving people out of the system?
Yeah, when you think about the mission of Glean, again, it is to empower employees. So there's a couple things we implement from a technical perspective, right? Right now, especially with the creation of agents, there's a lot of talk in the industry about true agentic capability, taking action without a human. We don't submit to that. So we always have human in the loop.
I love the human in the
feedback,
loop. Yeah,
right?
that's a great expression.
So for instance, in the Glean ecosystem, you can absolutely build an agent that uses all the power of any model that you so choose, right? So a Claude, Sonnet 4, or maybe a Gemini or something like that. But when it comes to taking an action, like updating a Salesforce record, like sending an email, the business may not want you taking that in an agentic way and creating all of this documentation automatically. So we implement human in the loop feedback always when we take actions and we run agents. The other way that we ensure humans are always contained is really from the context of being permissions aware. So one of the big problems now, if you use LLMs, is they have no idea what you should be able to see and what you shouldn't. If you take ChatGPT or you take Claude or another model and you release it in your enterprise, it's just going to spit back what you give it. It doesn't know that you should see this SharePoint page and not that one. Glean is able to reflect those permissions. So that's why an executive can come in and see a very specific report or see an overview of something, much like Matt, whereas an engineer like myself can jump into our GitHub repository and solve a dedicated issue because I have access to our code repository. So in that way, Glean behaves differently for different personas and different people.
Makes sense. One of the things I love that's happened really with Fintech South as it's grown up is all these kind of adjacent events. I was at a panel last night around agentic AI, and one of the conversations you got into the agent to agent payments, and the idea of, well, if your agent makes a payment for you and you didn't know it and you bounce it, whose liability? But the fact that you've got the human in the loop, that doesn't happen.
And I'll add one more thing. IT loves Glean because we've already implemented agent observability. So now we've released this wonderful tool, and everybody creates agents. I think at Glean we have 2793 was the last 2,793 agents, right?
So
that are created by all of us at Glean.
That you're using internally, or that you
Correct,
make
that we
available to
use.
your clients?
Yeah,
Okay.
we are happy to share, but
Yeah.
this is what we
This
use.
is what
we
you're
use
using.
Glean internally.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, how do you manage and monitor those? And so what we've implemented for ourselves and for our customers is agent observability. So certain teams, certain groups can access specific features of agents. Maybe maybe we want to modify like how many times an agent is run, or we want to observe it for some reason, or maybe we want to restrict certain actions. All of this is possible at the administrative level within Glean, so you can administer it safely. So you don't have rogue agents or even rogue people at the company using
Good
AI.
point. Yeah,
in the
agents
wrong
aren't the
way.
only ones that go rogue in science fiction movies. It's the people too. So this is great because now we've covered both the business and the technology. Moving back to the business side, Matt, can you give examples of where you've seen Glean put into practice, where it's really kind of helped to empower employees to do the great things you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned the onboarding. I think it's a great example. Also, I know in banking, like the concept of like a tear sheet, pulling together like really quick information for investment banking, whatever it is almost exactly like the same use case I described and how I prepare for meetings. For those of you maybe on the technical side, you think about maybe you're a developer and there's an outage in a payment system. I mean, you can use, again, I apologize, we're talking about ourselves a bit, but these concepts are what really important. You can use a tool like Glean to pull together insight from GitHub, Jira, whatever internal communications have happened around similar issues before. Present that developer with a probable root cause and a run book, and even reference to individuals have dealt with either lead whatever area of the tech stack that seems problematic or have encountered that issue before. And so people come into this too. It refers you to people that can help in that scenario.
By name.
Yes,
By
absolutely,
individual.
absolutely. So that's kind of maybe to kind of bring that example to life. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good one. Again, if those of you that are developing, you imagine that scenario, that's exactly what you need. But you get a run book that's all has citations. You can check where the information's coming from. And you could call that person, of course, if you need, which is, again, brings that human to
that
hit the
makes
theme
sense.
into the picture.
Yeah, and I had one thing. What's really interesting about Glean is once we know everything about your enterprise, we can transfer knowledge, right? There's someone at the enterprise that knows everything about this system. Then there's somebody who may be a little bit newer and they may not. Well, Glean can change that knowledge gap. So that can affect what we see in a lot of financial institutions, their customer support process. Right, you have some frontline resource. Oh, my debit card is lost and now I need a new one. Help me with that process. Oh, I'm locked out of my account to make a payment. How do we mitigate those tickets as fast and as efficiently as possible? Lots of financial institutions are using Glean for use cases like this to really affect their bottom line, in addition to solving major issues like what Matt described.
Makes sense. I was having a conversation just in the hallway earlier today about if you really compare things to when the world went to the mobile phone for apps and interaction and things like that. And one of the challenges was you really, to get the full benefit, you needed to become mobile first and mobile centric rather than just kind of bolting mobile onto it. I guess, TJ, this is probably for you, it could be for both of you. How do you think about how the challenges that organizations may face in becoming the AI-centric organization rather than finding a way to just apply AI to where they're at today?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's tough. So we see a lot. We work with a lot of organizations, and this is industry specific, right? One problem is your data, right? Everybody, I haven't met an enterprise yet that their data was in a place where they felt prepared to adopt AI. So whatever solution you're looking at, it needs to be able to support rapidly changing, rapidly modified, not always clean data. That's one problem we see quite a bit. Another problem is that everybody wants AI, but they don't actually know what it's going to do for them. So many people I talk to are just fearful that they're missing out, but they haven't thought through the workflows that AI is really going to affect. They haven't thought this is the actual workflow and this is where I need intelligence versus automation in my business. So thinking through your use cases helps companies become truly AI-centric, and it helps them adopt AI faster, no matter what they're looking to do. And then, of course, finally, especially within financial services, security and governance. And there are layers to security and governance within AI. There is platform security. So are you SOC 2 compliant? Are you ISO certified? What are your software development lifecycle practices of the solution? Then there are guardrails that we need to implement, much like agent observability. How are we going to control it once we do deploy it? Then there's this new paradigm of AI governance, responsible AI use, prompt injection attacks, right? Is it going to surface code? Is it going to create bad code? How are we going to use AI the right way? So there are levels of security, and we find that the organizations who are really doing it well are thinking about this. They're looking before they're leaping, and they're thinking about these particular categories, and then they're selecting a solution. And that allows them to be mobile first in your analogy, or similarly when people adopted software, right? It's the same way. They went from keeping their customers in a book to now have to use Salesforce. So that same kind of change.
And I can see the same
now.
thing. I mean, if you just, I got to have Salesforce. I'll install it, and I don't think about how I'm actually going to apply it. You're going to be disappointed. I've seen some companies are disappointed with their AI pilots for exactly that reason, because they haven't gone back the steps necessary to put it in the right way.
Yeah, and there's one more thing, and this might be the biggest thing: change management. So I have seen this across every single enterprise I've worked with. We release AI, and no one knows how to prompt. Some people in the organization are amazing, and they're using AI, and they're solved all their jobs. And then there's somebody else who's just, they don't know how to prompt. We are giving people fire, and we are trying to get them to cook. So we have to make that jump, that AI literacy jump across the org to see true benefits. In fact, I spend most of my time teaching people how to use AI. Not deploying it, not implementing it, how to prompt, how to get the result, and how to make sense of what AI can actually do and how to use it effectively. That is a huge differentiator between companies who adopt it fast and slow.
And even if you know how to use it, there's muscle memory too. I found myself 2 days ago, I was driving into town for a meeting. I was talking to one of my reps about a proof of value that we have, a proof of concept, whatever you'd like to call it, happening at an account. I was saying, hey, look, the executives are really interested. Let's get a note out to them on Monday that says, hey, here's what's going to happen this week. On Friday, let's get a note that says, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we achieved. And he's like, yeah, okay. It's like, do you mind if I just build an agent to do that, though, too? And again, I don't think it's going to do it in a way that he's going to use that 100% as it is. He's going to take the 80% that's perfect because it pulls from all of our systems, and he doesn't have to recreate that. It's probably more accurate than what he'd remember. And he enhances it, and there we go. So you have to remind yourself. Mm-hmm. I have a couple organizations, and they're not in regulated industries, where they're smaller, maybe 5,000 employee firms, and they run very intentional adoption. This particular one I'm thinking, run a very intentional adoption campaign, and the results are fantastic. It's easier for someone like that, a company like that, to do it, but there's a muscle memory piece as well. And then last thing I'll throw on the pile of a challenge is like the ROI challenge, because people, again, with this whole automation and human thing, can get a little weird, and you identify time savings, and then a CFO will often want to know how you're going to apply it. If you're a growing company, you need to be more efficient. That's an easier thing to do. But I think it's, yeah, and so in the large accounts, the law of big numbers fixes that, right? Because even if you go ultra conservative, it's really clear that there's value there across, let's say, if you're a top 10 bank, right? Which, again, the types of accounts that my team in particular works with. But outside of that, it may take some strategic thinking executives to understand. You called it fire. It's like, hey, if my competitor had this tool and they could outwork, outthink, and outsell me as a result, you know, would I like that? You know? Even if I'm uncomfortable with how I'm going to measure this. So it's a little bit of a provocation, of course, but I think that's where it gets challenging too, like defining what you're going to measure over time.
TJ, when you mentioned you spend a lot of your time, maybe you said most of your time, actually teaching people how to use AI, is that primarily teaching them how to best prompt, or is it even beyond that?
Yeah, context engineering, prompting, the best practices to find something, especially with a tool like Glean, because we offer a retrieval augmented generation. So there's the prompt, but then there's a lot around that. How do you build agents, right? What's the best paradigm to do that with?
Okay.
And how do we prepare our data the best way?
Yeah, I didn't realize, I don't see him here, but speaking to somebody earlier today, that Kennesaw State University, I didn't realize has a class in how to optimize prompting, which I think I'm going to sign up for that one. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, we find people who have a high command of the language do much better. So it's very interesting. Another thing is we encourage enablement org-wide because you never know who's going to do best with an agent or an AI tool, because it really does boil down to your command of the language. How you can interact with the LLM is based on your language to the LLM. So the better you can communicate, the better you can.
And when you
use
say
AI.
command of the language, you're talking the LLM language as opposed to the English language, which I guess kind of overlap too.
Yeah, it's usually command of the English language.
It
or
is?
whatever
Okay,
you're
good.
using to interact with that LLM.
Interesting.
You don't have to say please as much as I found I did at the beginning, though.
Yeah, just yesterday watching somebody do a demo, I heard an awful lot of please. Can you please stop now? That's enough. Yeah.
You could just bark at it. That's fine.
Maybe to wrap up, the overall, we're obviously pretty early in this AI journey, but what do you see kind of as the next steps, the next wave of, the types of work, the way you're going to see it implemented for both of you?
Yeah, I'll jump in. One, I think that you're going to see everyone using agents rapidly. You're going to see agents everywhere. Personal agents, business agents. It's going to change how we work. It's already changed, I know, for me and Matt, how we work and how we prepare.
Do you both, I'm guessing on your side of the shop too, you're building your own agents. Are you building yours as well?
yeah.
Do you think most people will be, or is it going to be something that you adopt them from a catalog
I'll share
someplace
this with you. I have 140 agents
that you've developed?
that work for me.
The answer is yes, both. Like you're going to have
You
governance.
will have a
but
catalog. You have a library someplace, but you'll have the facility or the ability to actually create your own.
Absolutely. So there's that, right? So taking advantage of agents. Second, the models are going to keep becoming more commoditized. So it's a commodity race for the models. One's going to out-trump the other and so forth and so on. And so you're going to see very impressive things from the model generators, which will be exciting because that will benefit everything associated with that ecosystem. So we really look forward to that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when all of our time is now freed up because we have agents where we can focus on higher priority tasks. And that's what Glean is pushing for. Not to replace a person, but to help them focus on something that matters.
And it's the race to further differentiate by actually populating.
Exactly.
Wow, that's great. Anything else we haven't covered that you want to make sure you get out for people who may not be familiar with Glean, as I wasn't? Because I've learned a ton.
I'd just say one thing I'm excited about, and again, I got a flavor right here just a little while ago down at our table. It's like, I mentioned this muscle memory concept, but I'm really excited to see what I learn and benefit from. Like you put this creative aspect in all these people's hands, and you do have some governance around it. We kind of talked about it a bit.
Sure.
You're not going to let everything run in the wild. But everyone has, to your point, such a different way of thinking about how to solve a problem, and you benefit that when you share them. So we're just doing that down there at the table. And I can't even imagine what it's going to look like a year from now in terms of how much benefit we can get out of these things that your peers have created. You just think about problems differently than you do.
And I'm sure we couldn't imagine a year ago that we'd be doing what we're doing
100%.
today. So that makes perfect sense. TJ, Matt, thanks so much. This has been
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Oh, my goodness. And thank you, Glean, for sponsoring our Fintech for Social Good track. This was amazing. I feel like we've been gleaned out. I don't know if that's a term, right? No, but what an inspiring day speaking to leaders within this fintech space, all leading with fintech for social good in mind. So really thankful for everyone for joining. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of the event, and we're all closed. Thank you all.